Well, welcome back to the Sunday Footy Show. It's Bury the Hatchet time, and this is the first time we're going to do this live. And we've got Cambell Brown and Matthew Lloyd in the studio together. And there's a big history. It goes back over 10 years. It goes back to pretty much 2004, the line in the sand game. But it even goes back before that when Hawthorn and Essendon played in premierships and grand finals against each other, 83, 84 and 85. It's been a long-standing rivalry. And Cambell, Lloyd, you're already here. Cambell, thanks for joining us. And
no worries.
Goes back to 2004, the line in the sand game. Can you tell us some of the background of what happened in the line in the sand game, what happened at half-time?
Yeah, it's been pretty well documented. Dermot Burden came into the change rooms at half-time, and he was a little bit upset with some of the things that had been going on out there in the past. I think we'd lost 8 or 9 games in a row to Essendon, and they'd pretty much, physically bullied us and really were on top of us. And that day, he grabbed Richie Vandenberg, myself, and a few of the guys, and just said, "Today's the day that we make a stand." It's been famously called the line in the sand game, and we went out there after half time, and we obviously didn't think it'd explode the way that it did, but there was plenty of heat in the game, and things happened.
You got reported for 4 weeks for hitting Jason Winderlich, which, Lloydie, you said at the time was the most despicable thing you've ever seen on a football field.
Yeah, I was actually not involved in the all-in brawl. I, like Brownie, thought they would just break up quite quickly. So myself and Trent Crode were standing at full forward, and I saw Winderlich, who wouldn't have played too many games, running on the field, and Brownie was coming off the field, and I saw him land a big blow on Jason's face, which I saw Jason had his hands in his head, and I was just in total shock with what I'd just seen Cambell do to a young player on that day.
You got to remember, I was a young player too. I was only my 3rd season of football, and I was coming off with the blood rule as well. I was running off to the interchange bench. I turned around just to see what was unfolding. Jason was coming off with a blood rule too. He had a blood lip, and he was running off, and we kind of chested each other, and then I threw a punch on the way through, and it did connect, and yeah, I was disappointed with the comments that Lloydie made the next day, because I thought it prejudiced the tribunal. There weren't too many people that actually saw the incident, and it wasn't caught on camera, and so I thought for a senior player to come out and say that before I'd gone to the tribunal certainly wasn't going to help my case at all.
You're a bit of a fiery guy. What would have happened if you had seen him after the game in the car park or that night out somewhere that night?
Nothing. At that stage, me and Lloydie, I think we're all good, and that's kind of where it started to build from, and it certainly went up a couple of levels after that.
Did you lose respect for each other after the comments were made at all?
I certainly didn't. I'm not sure how Lloydie felt, but he probably did.
No, we didn't have a history before that. So as I said, it was a one-off incident that I didn't like, and Brownie's right. Probably if I had my time again, I wouldn't speak on. I think it was on the radio after the game, but it didn't take away how disappointed I was with that incident.
Then we go to round 3, 2005, and a guy, some of you might remember, Josh Thurgood, Lloydie, you lined him up and you got him, and the Hawthorn players took pretty good exception to this one also. Can you talk us through that?
No malice in that at all, Brownie. I actually had a broken arm that I came back from, was wearing an arm guard, and slid in for the footy and made contact with Josh. I didn't get suspended for that, but it was just an unfortunate incident. Later on that year, it goes up another notch. 2005, at the end, you actually break Cambell's nose. Is that true? You broke his nose? Well, I know that Cambell, here we see in the goal square, that actually Cambell was running, watching the football, and it doesn't look too good there, Brownie, on my part, but I honestly saw that as a reflex. So I remember the Hawthorn cheer squad were behind me, and they were giving it to me all day, and obviously the incident sparked after that when Brownie saw his chance to get one back at me. What's your thoughts on that incident behind the play?
Like Lloydie said, I don't think he meant to do it. It was a reflex action. And I was running facing Sully, and I've turned to go, and the contact's been made. I actually didn't know who it was until a couple of the Hawks cheer squad were screaming out, it was Lloydie. And once I got that knowledge, I was just looking for an opportunity to get one back, and that came not long after that, just on half time.
Talk us through that incident, because you ended up getting 4 weeks for it, but you certainly got him back.
Yeah, well, it's a perfect time to do it after the siren's gone, because they can't pay a free kick or give away a goal or anything like that. And I think someone was having a shot at goal, and things escalated there, and I made a bit of a beeline for Lloydie, and I was trying to land a couple onto his chin there, and I did end up getting 4 weeks. They actually wanted to report me 4 times, 1 for each strike, but I ended up just getting reported for the 1 incident, but I got 4 weeks for striking.
So at this stage, there's a fair bit of animosity between you two. Is it more a Lloyd and Cambell Brown thing, or is it now more Essendon Hawthorn, or is it just gone back to you two now?
There's no doubt when I got to Essendon, I was told of the hatred of the Hawthorn Football Club, and we started to laugh at Hawthorn at that stage with the line in the sand game. A joke amongst Essendon players was who's lost to Hawthorn, and there's no doubt they took exception to that. Personally, I'd never had anything against Cambell. Obviously, he's right where it started with my comments after the game, but it's amazing just how things seem to evolve between Hawthorn and Essendon, myself and Cambell, but I never went out on the ground looking to have anything happen with Cambell. I think we both play the game hard and things just evolved.
Do you like each other?
Yeah, no, I don't have a problem with Lloyd. It's just one of those things on a footy field. Pretty passionate guys, and there's no doubt that hatred for Essendon Hawthorn games is there. It's the first game you look at when the draw comes out, what round it is, and that week, the build up to it, and you know the history that's gone before you, and it's just one of the great games that the clubs are involved in.
And then we go forward to 2009 where, and this was a famous game also, this is over a 5-year history now, and Lloyd, he lines up Brad Sewell here, and whether you meant that, Lloydie, or not, he's out cold, and the aftermath of that, you two blokes know really well. There, Cambell, you're getting in there, throwing a few Luke Hodges there. What do you say to him right here?
No, that wasn't actually to Lloyd. That was to a couple of the Essendon boys on the bench. And Doc Bruce Reid, who's a very good friend of mine too, was there, so I give him a wink, and a little bit of theatre in it as well. But yeah, there's no doubt that was a disappointing thing that happened to Sully. Obviously got the 3 breaks in his eye socket, and I think the lead up to that was we were all over Essendon at the time. It was round 22. Whoever won that game went on to play finals, so there was a fair bit at stake. And I think Lloydie, being the captain of the club, gone in at half time, wasn't too happy with the way that the guys were playing, and came up to the line just to make a bit of a statement after half time and impose himself physically. And there's no doubt that he wouldn't have run in there with the intention of doing that, but that's the way it happened, and naturally we're pretty upset with it and went on to lose the game, and we were knocked out of the season. Do
you just see red when a teammate of yours goes down like that? When you see Brad Sewell go down, do you just think, where's Lloyd? Where can I get him?
That's probably one of the angriest I've ever been on the footy field, and all the boys too. You can see it was instant. Everyone went straight for Lloydie at the time, and I was weighing up in my head. You got to understand as well that it's round 22. So if we win, and at the time we were 26 points up, we're going on to play finals. So I didn't want to do anything too silly and get rubbed out. And obviously if we'd lost, I'd be sitting out the first 3, 4, 5 weeks of the next year too, like I'm doing at the moment. It's no bloody good either. So that's probably the reason why I didn't come a bit harder, and yeah.
Lloydie, why did you do it? And what are you thinking directly after you do it? Are you thinking safety?
Well, I went into that game thinking if we lost, well, I'd retired. So pretty much once that incident happened, I knew I was playing my last game of football, and I remember going in at half-time, we were playing terribly. They didn't have Buddy Franklin. I don't think, I think maybe Roughhead was out as well. And no doubt Sam Mitchell was getting a lot of taps behind. He was the one I was looking to lay a big bone-crunching tackle on. The ball came our way. I went to hip and shoulder Brad Sewell, so I don't take away from that, but I understood if you hit the head, you're going to be suspended. So obviously my shoulder made contact with him. I knew he was in a bad way. But at that stage, I just had to protect myself. And I must admit, the game's clean through that period, but I feared for myself in that second half. I didn't know what...
So you feared for your safety?
I did. I didn't know what Hodgie, Jordan Lewis, Cambell Brown, Alistair Clarkson after the game came towards me.
That's right.
What did he say to you?
He said to me, just pretty much called me a few names under that I was weak, and he was disappointed. Max Bailey had done his knee that day as well. So...
Did you say anything back to Clarko?
I didn't say anything, but I got down to the rooms. I was having a shower, and one of the administrators came up to me and said, you'll need some assistance getting to your car because there's so many people waiting for you, whether it be Hawthorn officials, whether it be players, whether it be supporters. So I had to get escorted to my car. Yeah, and obviously things transpired after that.
And obviously you remembered his comments after the game years back after that. Then after the game you had these comments to say?
Mate, we're not going to forget in a hurry what Matty Lloyd did, and I hope he plays on next year. Matty Lloyd, he's done that a fair few times to us, and I think he's one of the biggest snipers in the game, so his time's coming.
One of the biggest snipers in the game.
Yeah.
What do you think of when you look back at those? Obviously, the emotion and the passion in you, we see it day to day when you play footy, but do you look back now and think, maybe I shouldn't have said that, or I'm happy I stand by that? Yeah,
absolutely. I like to say what I think at the time, and we've gone through what's happened and over the last 4 or 5 years. The Thurgood thing, we weren't really happy at. The great thing about Lloyd is when he goes for a contest, he goes hard, and he if he can't win the contest, he certainly goes to hurt, and I think that's a fantastic part of the game. So he's very good at picking blokes off, and. And there's been plenty of players that have done that over the years, and so people call me a sniper. I'm not sure what the exact definition is, but he certainly, when he hit a body, he hit to hurt, and so I made those comments.
But it seems like you both got a healthy respect for the way each other played.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I've got nothing but respect for Lloydie, and he's a champion of the game, and it was a great rivalry there, and it was one of those things that we're sitting here today as. A retired player and someone almost retired, we'll probably be talking about this for a long time,
And that's what Brownie made it great, playing for Essendon and also playing for big clubs, because you have those rivalries in front of big crowds. Obviously, to me, sniping is punching someone from behind, so I never saw it that way, but obviously Brownie's interpretation of that is just going hard, and if you hurt someone, which I understand that. So, but I had more worries on my mind at that stage with, as I said, fearing for
life.
I actually had the sun visors down driving home and there was no sun because I didn't mind any Hawthorn support.
I reckon if it was a regular season game and not round 22...
You would have smacked him.
The boys would have been lining up, to be honest. But we're in a pretty unfortunate situation that we were in front at the time, and we already had a few guys out, like Lloydie said, with Buddy and Ruffy and these guys, and you play all year to play in the final. You didn't want to do anything too silly, but I think Chance Bateman did get
and he knocked me out. I was knocked out for about 3 or 4 seconds. Not long after, big round arm from Bateman.
You got a week or two.
Yeah, week or two. So anyway, it was a game that you look back on. It, the worst thing to come out of it was the injuries to Brad Sewell, but it's one of those famous moments that people will never forget between Essendon and Hawthorn.
Boys, it was a fantastic insight into personally your lives in the footy sense of it, and also Hawthorn Essendon. Thanks for joining us today.
No, we're going to hug it out, mate.
Up next on the Sunday Footy Show, we cross live to Kenny Hinkley, Port Adelaide's coach. They're 5 and zip. They're going fantastically. See you after the break.